Native American communities. Together we're fighting for everybody, but we're fighting this horrible coronavirus. It's a tough opponent, but we're winning, and we're starting to see our country come back. It's been a very exciting few days. We're starting to see it all come back. We're improving the lives of Native American families and tribes more than any administration has ever done by far. We're grateful to be joined by Governor Doug Ducey, and thank you very much, Doug, for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Secretary Eugene Scalia, thank you. Eugene.
Pleasure.
Senator Martha McSally, who's doing very well. I hear things are very good. You're doing great. Thank you, Martha. Vice President of Navajo Nation, Myron Lizer, and by the way, we appreciate it very much. And you know, there's two ways of saying that name. They told me outside, but I always think of it as Lizer. So how do you like it? How do you like it? That's what I thought. Okay. Thanks, Myron, very much. And Second Lady, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. The Navajo Nation has been very special to a lot of people, and it's certainly been very special to this state. And the relationship, Doug, I think is extraordinary, isn't it, when you get right down to it. So thank you very much, and we very much appreciate it. Native Americans have been hit hard by the terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have tested positive for the coronavirus, and tragically more than 70 have lost their lives. How is it looking right now? How's it doing?
Well, the numbers are still rising. We're hoping that it flattens. Our health professionals have said that the peak will be in mid-May, and it's kind of uncanny, and it's fallen that way. So 2,400 infected, with 73 that have succumbed, and that's too many.
That's a lot. Mitigation-wise, you're doing what?
We have shut down enacted a 57-hour curfew over the weekend. Our people love to travel out to the border towns off the reservation. Recently, the National Guard came in and has shut down Gallup under a new mayor leadership in Gallup, New Mexico. So they've been on lockdown for 5-6 days now, and so that's helped. But our people are readily going to other border towns like Flagstaff and Farmington, New Mexico. So I think the super majority are obeying and staying home.
Well, what we're doing, you know, we're bringing these two. These are very hard to come by because they're very popular. This is done by Abbott Laboratories, and we're bringing them for you. And these are the quick tests, and they're very accurate and very fast. So we're doing that. I think we have 1,000 cartridges too, 1,000 for 1,000 tests. So hopefully that'll be helpful to you.
Yes,
we appreciate it. Because you've done a fantastic job. You've been great friends. Native Americans have been hit hard by this terrible pandemic. Over 2,000 members of the Navajo Nation have really, I mean, it's been incredible what's taken place, and there's nothing we can say. But the coronavirus is tragically, as you just said, 70 people lost their lives. The administration is deploying the full resources of the federal government to support and protect our Native American communities in this very grave time of need. And I know that I think I can speak very strongly for Martha and for the governor. We're full hands on deck, and you're working very hard. I know that, Doug. Work very, very hard. And even Department of Labor. It's been working very hard with everybody that's in this room and everybody that needs to be, right? Anything you have to say, by the way, Gene, while you're here, please?
It's a pleasure to be here. It's wonderful being on the road again, as you know, Mr. President. And then great being in Arizona, which is such a spectacular state. And the Native American communities here are such a great part of the state and really our nation and our nation's heritage. So it's so good to be here. I know, Mr. President, you have an important announcement to make today about additional things we're doing to help these tribal governments. And we're certainly doing all we can at the Labor Department to implement the legislation that you signed, that you got enacted so incredibly quickly. People forget, 3 weeks in March, 3 major pieces of legislation with paid leave, with unemployment benefits, and with the Paycheck Protection Program to put us in position to get going again. And now, Governor Ducey and I were just talking about it, we're reopening. And it's a wonderful thing to see. I think we're well positioned. And I think, Mr. President, with your leadership, we're going to get back to where we were just a few weeks ago. Things were going so well. and we'll get there. We had a nice conversation, the governor, vice president, second lady, and I, a little while ago, talking about some of the things we're doing at the department. I mentioned these dislocated worker grants that are made available also to tribal governments. So I urge you to look into that and see if we can help you with that.
And I'd like to introduce also the governor, Stephen Lewis, who's been terrific and working with us very hard. Thank you very much, Stephen. It's fantastic. We appreciate it very much. How is it going?
Well, it's going to a point where we're trying to keep beyond the curve as well. We're located just not far from here, our traditional lands and our reservation land base.
That's Gila River.
Gila River, home to one of the flag raisers on Mount Suribachi, Ira Hayes.
Right.
And
that's beautiful territory, isn't it?
It is. Thank you, President.
But it's how are you doing in terms of the amount? What are your numbers now, as of today? What are your numbers?
Our numbers, we've tested over 1,000. We've had about just over 1,100 tests. We've had one fatality. We have 44 positive tests. Our tribal community is around 23,000 members. So we are keeping ahead of the curve, but I know testing is a big issue, and also thank you for working with your administration on getting one of the Abbott analyzers as well. We were one of the first tribes to get one as well, and then also working with Governor Ducey, getting 5 ventilators as well.
That's right.
We run our own healthcare, independent of the Indian Health Service, Gila River Healthcare.
That's great.
And so we hire our own doctors. We put our own communities members to work, and from other tribes as well. And so we're taking care of our own tribal members on this. We have we have an incident command that we've started as well. All of our departments are collaborating for one purpose, and that's to keep our community members safe, Mr. President.
It's fantastic. Good. And you'll have the ventilators there soon, I know, right? Knowing Doug. They're good ventilators too, aren't they?
Yes.
They're really good. Weeks ago, I signed the CARES Act, which includes $8 billion to help tribal governments, and I want to thank Senator McSally for fighting hard to get those funds and get them here and get them to a lot of different people all over the country, including to the folks in this room. So I want to thank you, Martha. You've done a fantastic job. You really have. This is the single largest investment in Indian country in our history. So the amount of money that's being sent to Indian country, as we call it, is the largest amount in the history of the U.S., and you deserve it, and you've been through a lot. The Navajo Nation will soon receive over $600 million. That's a lot. Should I renegotiate that? Can we renegotiate?
Only if we go up.
He said only if you go up. I understand. I've heard that before. The Lihu River will receive, and I think you probably know all about this, but we're giving you some information, $40 million. And you're going to use that very well. I know that because I know you. You're going to be given $40 million in initial funds to help protect their citizens from the scourge, from the plague, from what we're all fighting in this country. Should have never happened. Should have been contained from where it came. Since I took office, my administration has also worked to repatriate precious Native American artifacts to protect children in the care of the Indian Health and Indian Health Service, and to make Eagle remains more easily accessible for cultural and religious purposes, and to highlight the contributions of Native American veterans throughout the history of our nation. So you know all those elements. And the Eagle remains is a very important thing to you, right?
Oh, yes, sir.
Very important. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Last year, I signed the first presidential proclamation recognizing the tragedy of missing and murdered American Indians and Alaska Natives. We also have a tremendous problem, missing and murdered American Indians. It's been could you discuss that for a second, please?
I don't want to steal a second lady's thunder here.
I'd like to have the second lady. Go ahead, please.
Well, Navajo Nation has been really hit hard by missing and murdered Indigenous women. It seems to be a growing issue that's been happening with Navajo, and so we with the Ashlyn Mike case that came up in 2016, where she was kidnapped and raped and murdered in Shiprock, New Mexico, May 2nd, 2016. So that's kind of what opened the door for Navajo to start saying, okay, we need to do something, because that became the forefront. And so since then, the Amber Alert on Navajo Nation has gotten better, but still needs help with funding, still needs help with getting the data together. Our First Lady, Cecilia Yanez, is also part of the New Mexico task force that's getting together data. And so we're just really needing help in that sense. And so we don't want to lose any more of our Native sisters, our Native mothers. And so the cry is to get the awareness out, because a lot of people don't know of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and now it's hitting the LGBTQ community. And so we just want to make that aware and know that, hey, we're waving our arms here. I think there was a movie that came out with Native women that have been murdered and missing. And so it hits close to home, because we have a close family member, Patricia Potero, that went missing in 2015. They found her 2 months later, murdered in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And so her case still remains unsolved. We got Tamika Platero, who's from Little Water, New Mexico, who went missing November 25th, 2019, and is still missing. And so we have these girls out there that are missing, and we don't know. And there's
So
that
this has
jurisdiction.
been far disproportionate to other people and other areas of the country. What you've gone through. I mean, I've been hearing about this for a long time.
Yes.
For years and years. This has been for many years, for many decades, right?
Yes. Yes.
Disproportionate.
Yes.
Disproportionate. Well, $273 million, a lot of that's going to go toward trying to solve that problem. It's a problem that can be solved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I know you're going to use it well.
Yes.
And you'll figure it out, right?
Yes.
It's a horrible thing. So New Mexico versus Arizona, tell me, because we're here. Where are you going to be? Where's the problem worse? New Mexico or Arizona?
Navajo Nation spans Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona. And so, I think all of us working collaboratively, that's going to really help, because sometimes we get misclassified. We get misclassified as Hispanic. And so I think there was a Hopi girl that had been murdered here in Phoenix, and they classified her as Hispanic. And so a lot of times, the people don't know. So I think with the more talks out there, that people will, start to.
Is there a certain area, though, or you have the 4 states? Is there a certain area where the problem is exacerbated or worse, or is it?
Well, I think it's just all Indian country, Indian country, whether it's Alaska Native or Navajo or Hopi or Gila River, it's all over.
It's a very big problem in Alaska.
Yeah, Mr. President, if I could add to that, just recently in Farmington, New Mexico, there was an Anglo woman who was abducted, and I'm most certain she came across the Navajo Nation and was found murdered in near Flagstaff, Arizona. And so I think it just speaks largely to the lack of public safety officers in such a vast land, the size of West Virginia.
It is a vast land.
So not only Navajo and others, but it's just an area that I guess because there's not as many public safety that you get those
Well, I'm
kinds
going to be signing something in a couple of moments, and I hope it helps a lot, not just a little bit, a lot.
Yes.
And I think you'll do a fantastic job. I know you're going to be watching it personally.
Yes.
And between the 3 of you and everyone else that I know so well, I think you're going to do a great job. And so go get them.
Thank you, Mr.
Go do
President.
the job. I'd like to maybe finish off with the governor. Great governor. You're doing a phenomenal job. What do you have to say, Doug?
Well, my mic thankfully is working. First, I want to say thank you, Mr. President. We're thrilled that you're back in Arizona, especially to talk these specific tribal issues. I want to say to Second Lady Leiser, to Vice President Leiser, to Governor Lewis, this focus that we've had on our tribal nations, first and foremost, around the coronavirus, with a special shout out to Senator McSally, who advocated for these ventilators that were so needed. on Navajo Nation. Please extend my best to President Nez, and I'm so grateful, Mr. President, that you took a personal interest in getting these ventilators to Navajo Nation. And I'm proud, Mr. Secretary, in Arizona, our legislature, both Democrat and Republican, last year signed HB 2570. And Second Lady Leiser, I want to give a personal thank you to you. This was the bill to address missing and murdered Indigenous people. And what we hope to do in Arizona is to reduce and eliminate this scourge that we have on our native nations. And in Arizona, we have 22 tribal nations, and 75% of the Navajo people reside in the state of Arizona. So that was a positive thing that we could get done last year. And Governor Lewis, I want to say to you, another positive thing in addition to the HB 2570 that we passed, it was also unanimous, was the drought contingency plan to address Arizona's water future. You were a real leader on that, and for that I'm grateful. Thank you for being here to,
thank you very
celebrate
much.
these accomplishments. Mr.
And you know, one
President.
of the other accomplishments we have is in Arizona and a lot of other states, we're building a wall, and you're finally getting what you need. And interestingly, California's calling, because in bordering towns, as you know, in Mexico, they have a very big outbreak of the coronavirus. And California's calling, saying, you got to help us. Those are not calls that the media knows about, but that's the facts. And in Tijuana, right along the border, they have a tremendous outbreak. And we have just completed 172 miles of wall. And it's real wall, not the kind you were having built over the years that were sort of scoffed at, right? And we've done a lot in Arizona, and the people are letting us know they're so happy, they're so thrilled about it. It's made a tremendous difference, and we've had one of the best months ever in the history of our country for not having people come in that we don't want in our country. We want to have the people that come in the right way. So you see the numbers. The numbers are about the best we've ever had in the history of the country. So it's good. But we're getting that done. I guess you see where they're doing it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a big thing. We're up to 172 miles. We'll have it completed early next year. So it's been something. Okay, I'm going to sign this. I want to just congratulate you, Myron.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I want to congratulate you, Second Lady. That's so fantastic.
Thank you.
And I want to congratulate you for also, because I've been in that vicinity, and it's one of the most beautiful places you can imagine. So congratulations very much. Thank you, Stephen.
Mr. President, what are your thoughts on winding down the coronavirus task force?
1 second, Jeff.
Yes, sir. Oh, sorry.
I want to make sure that everybody looks good, except me. I'm going to hand this to the Second Lady, okay? You don't mind?
Mr. President, I want to thank you.
Go ahead, please.
I want to thank you again. I'm
Stephen, go ahead.
I'm wearing my red ribbon in remembrance of this significant moment for missing and murdered Native Americans. And again, I want to thank you for making such an announcement today and for signing an important document to commemorate the National Day of Awareness. And I know that your administration also made another very important announcement today regarding the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And thank you for that. And to take a few moments to comment about that as well. I want to thank, of course, Governor Ducey and Senator McSally for advocating and for making sure that this is getting out to Indian country, this much needed resources as well. And so today your administration made a significant impact across Indian country. And I want to thank you for getting some of the money out today. I want to thank you also because we need help now, Indian tribes, and can't wait for that litigation to end before additional payments are made to us from the fund. And if you can, please direct Treasury to make these payments as soon as possible. And three, we need to spread the limited resources currently available as far as we can, and to avoid allocating to a very few tribes and under allocating to most others. And this means that you should include a limit or cap on the total funding any one tribe receives. And we need to have flexible guidance to allow us to use the funds we receive to keep our governments running, Mr. President. And the current fund of $8 billion is going to be woefully inadequate to meet our overall needs. And we really need to work, and we will work with Senator McSally and your administration to take this to the next level. And I look forward to working with Senator McSally, with your Chief of Staff Meadows, Congress, and your administration on the next relief bill, Mr. President. Thank you, to make sure that your investments in Indian country are going where they are needed the most, and in a way that shows that our governments and our economic entities can be part of that recovery that we are talking about here. That will be critical as we come out of this crisis and rebuild our tribal, state, and national economy together with Indian country included, Mr. President. I always end my my video messages to my community members. We're all in this together,
right.
And to continue to be Gila River strong. And I think that is how that we can continue to be Gila River strong and to strengthen all tribal nations moving forward, Mr. President.
That's good. Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate it. And I have to say,